Okay, so as we've been discussing, they've made it to space. Now what happens? To talk a little bit more about that, we're joined by Roberta Bondar. She is Canada's first female astronaut, and she joins us from near the Fort DeSoto Bird Sanctuary in Florida. Thank you so much for making time for us again today.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we know that the astronauts have already awakened inside the capsule after some much-needed rest. What do you think their first few hours look like as they adjust to being in space?
Man, there's probably a top three. One is like, where is everything and where am I? Things will be floating around, and they've done their best to make sure that everything's captured in some way they can find things, because everything takes a life of its own. I think the idea of looking out the window is something that can't be underestimated. I mean, the view that Christine was talking about, looking out and seeing the South Pole, is something that we haven't seen in the International Space Station or the Space Shuttle, because it's not a view that we get. We're never far enough south. And that's a view that people saw translunar when they were heading off to the moon and back in the 70s. So that's spectacular. The idea that, as Nicole was saying, that Jeremy hadn't been in space before, so hadn't even seen the Earth from space. So that would be fantastic for him in his first couple of moments. So that would be the second thing. And I think the third thing was to be able to contain all this excitement, as well as everything that's floating around them, to contain the excitement and really focus on the task at hand. So again, it's trying to deal with sort of the space energy that you want, but also the maybe feeling of your stomach coming up a bit into your throat at the same time. So lots to contend with, I think.
You know, Roberta, listening to you, even though it was, back in the 90s that you were able to secure a spot on the Space Shuttle Discovery, it sounds like it's very much at the forefront of your mind, that experience. I'm wondering, do you think you can describe for us what it's like being inside during liftoff?
Inside, it's akin to what I think would be like if you're inside a Roman candle or a fireworks. It is something that you are being shaken to almost not to pieces, because you'd fall apart, but you're really being shaken in a way that you can't simulate very well on Earth, no matter how hard they try. And lying on your back, lying on our backs, facing upwards to get the G-force against our chests, and our knees are up. It is. You feel like you're, I think, at the circus at a fair, and you're now going into some kind of a dive on a roller coaster or some kind of a scrambler that's pulling you around, and you're just lying on your back, and you have no control. And we have the helmets on and these like the Snoopy caps, the comm caps, and to try to deafen some of the noise, but you can't deafen the whole thing. So it's loud, very loud. And the solid rockets have solid fuel in them, and it doesn't burn evenly. So there are these bumps all the time, and it's a very rocky road, and it's very noisy as the stuff is burning all around you. So for those first couple of minutes with the solids burning, it is really noisy, really rocky, and you know that you are in something that you can't get out, and you just don't know where you're going, but you hope it's in the right direction. And then when they fly off, when they burn off, blow off the sides, it is quieter, but it's very, very much heavier force against the chest, because you're going faster and faster through thinner atmosphere with less rocket power, because the main engine is not quite as powerful as these solid rockets, but it's thinner atmosphere, but it is really a pressure on the chest. And then when the main engine's cut off, you just feel your body just, it's at the top of that roller coaster where your stomach is leaving your body. You feel like it, and it's quiet. But then everything is floating, like everything that they've missed taking off the capsule in this case, but certainly off the shuttle, like screws and bolts and the odd little piece of tool that they couldn't find, dust, all of that stuff. Everything floats. And you see this stuff going around you, and when you come back, it falls again like rain. But on that entry into space, you're just a piece of dirt like everything else floating around. That's why you still have your seatbelt on.
Wow, Roberta, despite the fact that it was 1992, that was the most vivid description. I can tell that it's something that doesn't leave you, despite it having happened decades ago. And, you know, one can only imagine, the rest of us can only imagine just how extraordinary that experience is. We know, too, that with this mission, with Artemis II, this is sort of a progression leading up to future missions, that the expectation is to have boots on the moon, so to speak. So this is the farthest that any human will have traveled into space on the far side of the moon. We know that there's a lot of impact on the human body with zero gravity. How do you think this might differ? Because it is sort of a realm that hasn't really been explored yet. So how different might that be on the human body? What have you heard? What do you imagine might happen?
There are a lot of things that do happen, certainly in space, because we're in free fall around the planet when we're in what's called near Earth orbit, like low Earth orbit. And that's what this International Space Station has been doing and is doing, and with the space shuttle. But with going around the moon or into lunar orbit or on the surface of the moon is a partial gravitational field. It's about 1/6 of Earth's gravity. Mars is about 1/3. So there is some gravity there. So you can see these big hops. But when you're not on the surface of the moon, you're still in a free fall. In this case, you're going to be free falling around the moon, and then you're going to be pulled back by the gravitational field of Earth and pulled back towards Earth. That's how they're getting back. So there will be sort of some kind of a pull, but it's not enough for the bones of the body really to understand that it's going to be needed enough to really, in the long run, stay in the same kind of shape that's needed to prevent you from breaking your leg when you land. So in the 10-day mission that they're on, it's not going to be enough to really to take so much bone mass away that they're going to be in trouble. Certainly on long-duration flights or on long-duration stays on the moon, there is not enough gravity to allow you to come back to Earth, for example, and be totally safe when it comes to bone structure. So there are things that will happen to you that way. But on a 10-day flight, they are actually taking some cell tissue, for example, and just trying to see how radiation will affect it. Because one of the big changes going that far into space is that they're not protected by the area that we have around our planet. The magnetosphere, the Van Allen belts that protect against radiation coming to us here on our planet that allows us to live here. Those are things that we don't know how they're going to affect our chromosomes or our DNA. And so that in the long run, we need to understand that to protect people from radiation, solar flares, going deeper into space, to Mars, for example, or staying on the surface of the moon for long periods of time. So this is the early stages of trying to understand deep space travel. So people on this particular flight, the 4 crew people, they're real guinea pigs